Chapter 21. The Last Ally. The night hung heavy over the ruined town, shrouding it in darkness. The scorched earth still bore the lingering heat of battle, and the air reeked of rusted iron and decaying corpses. The banners of the black-armored legion flapped violently in the fierce wind, the Empire's eagle insignia gleaming icily in the shadows. At the heart of the rebel camp, Alya stood still, gazing at the ominous black fissure widening in the distance. Undead energy surged forth like an unrelenting tide, spreading an aura of death and despair. It was not only a sign that the seal was collapsing, but also a harbinger of the impending catastrophe that could no longer be avoided. The Empire's movements, the underlying currents of the Black-Armored Legion. General Night Owl has issued a decree. Anyone remotely associated with Alya is to be executed on sight, reported a scout, emerging from the shadows and kneeling on one knee before Night Owl. Night Owl stood motionless inside the command tent, his cold gaze fixed on the battle reports before him. His eyes were as sharp as blades as he peered past the heavy curtains toward the distant, pulsing fissure. A faint, almost imperceptible smirk crept onto his lips. Deploy all forces to fortify the Undead seal site. Anyone who dares approach, kill them. His voice was low and unwavering, carrying an authority that brooked no defiance. The mobilization order spread swiftly across the Empire. Towns and fortresses along the way were placed under lockdown, and elite Imperial forces were dispatched to the site of the collapsing Undead seal. Yet within the Empire's upper echelons, unease festered. Some nobles had begun to suspect that the Empire's true motives extended beyond merely suppressing the rebellion. "What exactly does His Majesty want?" whispered a voice in a secret meeting room. "If the Undead King truly awakens, the entire Empire will be doomed." But dissent was swiftly silenced, as the iron will of the Black-Armored Legion had already crushed too many who dared resist. The rebels' struggle, the collapse and rekindling of belief. Inside the rebel camp, a heavy silence loomed. With Rehn gone, morale had plummeted to its lowest point. Doubts began to take root. Was there even a point in continuing this fight? Rehn, he died for us, and yet we couldn't even retrieve his body, murmured an old soldier, his voice thick with grief. The Black-Armored Legion is too strong. Even if we reach the Undead seal, what can we possibly do? Another soldier spat bitterly, his fists clenched in frustration. Alya stood before them, silent for a moment before drawing a deep breath. Slowly, she raised her hand, and a faint but resolute aura of undead energy flickered at her fingertips. "Do you truly believe Rehn's sacrifice was in vain?" Her voice was not loud, but it carried an unshakable conviction. "If we surrender now, that is when his death will have been meaningless." A hush fell over the soldiers. "The Black-Armored Legion is strong, but they are not invincible," Alya continued. "The Undead seal is collapsing, and the Empire's true intentions remain unclear. If the Undead King truly revives, the entire world will be plunged into ruin, and we are the only ones who can stop it." "The only ones?" a young soldier whispered, a flicker of hope glinting in his eyes. "Yes." Alya's gaze swept across them all, her voice firm and resolute. "We are not just fighting for ourselves. We are fighting for the future of this world. We still have allies, we still have hope, and we cannot afford to stop now." Her words were like sparks igniting a long-dead fire. The doubt in the soldier's eyes began to wane, gradually replaced by determination. "Rehn's sacrifice will not be in vain," one soldier muttered. "We must fight," another declared, standing up with renewed purpose. Throughout the camp, low murmurs rose, oaths of loyalty, of unwavering resolve. The rebel army had found its belief once more, the phenomenon of the undead realm, the expanding rift. But just as morale was beginning to recover, a thunderous roar suddenly erupted from the sky. Every head snapped up in unison, eyes locking onto the distant horizon where the Undead seal lay. The black fissure had abruptly expanded, and a torrent of twisted undead energy was now gushing forth. It was as if a long-sealed prison was on the verge of shattering, releasing the unspeakable horrors within. "The seal is breaking at an accelerated rate!" a sorcerer cried out in alarm. The earth trembled violently. The night sky cracked open with streaks of black lightning, and eerie whispers of the dead echoed through the howling wind, sending chills down the spines of all who heard them. Alya clenched her fist tightly. She knew that time was running out. "Everyone, prepare to move out," she commanded, her voice cutting through the chaos. The rebels rallied at once, eyes burning with determination. Their destination, the undead seal. No matter what awaited them, be it salvation or destruction, they would face it head-on. The ultimate battle was upon them. The night wind howled. The war drums had yet to sound, but the shadow of battle had already fallen upon the land. Alya stood before a crude map, her gaze fixed on the scattered markings of various factions. Though the rebels had reignited their fighting spirit, they remained insignificant in the face of the Black Armored Legion's suppression. "With just us, there's no way we can confront the Black Armored Legion head-on," Osmond said gravely, his fingers tracing the map. "But if we can unite the other resistance forces, we might stand a chance." Lisa nodded, her determined eyes locking onto Alya. "You've earned the trust of everyone here, but to turn the tide, we need more allies." Alya took a deep breath, sweeping her gaze over the gathered fighters. She understood that this was not just a battle. It was a gamble for the future. "We need to find every possible ally," she said slowly, her tone resolute. "The Mercenary Alliance, scattered rebel forces, even the undead hunters. Anyone who might help, we must try." The others nodded in agreement, before swiftly setting out to execute this desperate plan. Rallying old friends, the Rebel Alliance. Alya, accompanied by Osmond and Lisa, first traveled to the western guerrilla stronghold. There, remnants of the resistance clung to survival under the Empire's oppressive rule, wary of engaging in open warfare. When they arrived, the leader of the guerrilla fighters, a sharp-eyed elderly man, gazed at them coldly. "Alya, you are brave, but do you truly understand what you're up against?" the old man asked in a deep voice. "The Black Armored Legion is not an enemy a ragtag force like yours can defeat. If we do not fight, only destruction awaits us." Alya met his gaze unflinchingly. "The Empire's goal is not just us. The undead seal is collapsing. If the Undead King revives, the entire continent will become a battlefield." "So, you expect us to march to our deaths with you?" the guerrilla leader sneered. Alya took a deep breath before speaking steadily. "I don't need all of you to join us directly, but we can strike a deal. You excel in guerrilla warfare. You can harass the Black Armored Legion's supply lines and weaken them." The guerrilla fighters exchanged uncertain glances. Though some remained doubtful, a glimmer of recognition flickered in a few pairs of eyes. Finally, the leader sighed. "We will not fight on the front lines, but we will make trouble for the Black Armored Legion from the shadows." Alya nodded. This was the best concession she could secure. Negotiating with the Mercenary King, proving one's worth for aid. Next, Alya led her team to the headquarters of the Mercenary Alliance, hoping to gain the support of their warriors. The Mercenary Alliance was a formidable force, unaffiliated with any nation or faction, offering their services to the highest bidder. At its helm stood the Mercenary King, Drake. Alya and Osmond waited inside the Grand Hall of the Alliance. Moments later, a towering man with his arms crossed strode in. "Alya, so you're still alive," Drake remarked with a faint knowing smirk, his sharp gaze seemingly piercing through her. Alya held her ground and met his stare. "We need your help." Drake chuckled lightly. "The Mercenary Alliance is no charity. We deal in profit." "We can pay you," Osmond interjected. But Drake merely shook his head. "Gold? Don't be ridiculous. Your rebel forces can't match the Empire's wealth." He took a step closer, scrutinizing Alya. But if you can prove you have the strength to lead this war, perhaps I'll reconsider." "How do I prove it?" Alya asked evenly. Drake smirked and gestured toward the grand doors of the mercenary hall. As they slowly creaked open, a crimson-lit arena was revealed beyond them. "Fight," he said casually. "Win, and I'll send my mercenaries to aid you." Alya narrowed her eyes. She knew this would not be an easy battle, but if she wanted true allies, she had no other choice. The Undead Hunter's decision. Doubt and trials. With partial support secured from the Mercenary Alliance, Alya set her sights on her final target, the Undead Hunters. These warriors had devoted generations to hunting the undead, sworn to preventing the Undead King's return. Yet when Alya finally met their leader, she was met with an unexpected coldness. "Why should we help you?" the Undead Hunter leader asked, seated within a dilapidated temple, his expression unreadable. "Undead energy runs in your veins. You are no different from the cursed creatures we hunt." Alya frowned. "I seek to stop the Undead King's return." "Stop him?" the leader scoffed. "You can't even control the undead power within you. What right do you have to command us?" Alya remained silent for a moment, before slowly raising her hand. A faint aura of spectral dragon energy flickered at her fingertips. The undead hunters immediately tightened their grips on their weapons, the tension in the air thick enough to cut. Yet Alya did not waver. "I will not run from my power. If you truly wish to stop the Undead King, you should fight alongside me, not stand idly by." The leader studied her intently for a long moment before finally speaking. "Prove it to me." Alya clenched her fists. Another trial awaited her. As night fell, Alya stood at the edge of the camp, gazing up at the starry sky. The journey had been arduous, but she had taken the crucial first steps. The guerrilla fighters would disrupt the Black-Armored Legion's supply lines. The Mercenary Alliance was close to offering its warriors. And as for the Undead Hunters, she would meet their trials head-on. In the distance, the Black Fissure continued to expand, its undead aura growing stronger. Yet within Alya's heart, a new hope had begun to burn. She would not fight this battle alone. The night was deep, and the atmosphere within the grand arena of the Mercenary Alliance was thick with tension. Torches burned, casting flickering shadows over the central battleground, where Alya stood poised. Surrounding her were 3 battle-hardened mercenaries, their eyes filled with the cold detachment of seasoned warriors. From the viewing platform, Mercenary King Drake lounged in his chair, one hand propping up his chin, a faint smirk of disdain playing at his lips. "Alya, prove yourself," he said lazily. "Otherwise, don't expect anyone here to hold back." Alya took a deep breath, gripping her sword tightly. Beside her, the spectral form of the Nether Drake hovered in the air, its eyes ablaze with violet ghost fire. She understood that this was more than just a test. It was a battle of survival. The Mercenary King's trial, the onslaught of 3 elite warriors. The first mercenary lunged forward, his speed astonishing, a dagger flashing like lightning toward Alya's throat. She sidestepped swiftly, countering with a slash. But before her sword could land, the second mercenary advanced from the opposite direction, swinging a massive warhammer toward her waist. Boom! The impact sent Alya staggering back several steps. Before she could regain her footing, the third mercenary was already upon her, twin blades slicing toward her back. At the last moment, the Nether Drake let out a fierce roar, its shadowy claws intercepting the strike just in time. Alya's eyes sharpened. These 3 weren't just powerful individually, they were a well-coordinated team, attacking in perfect sync and leaving no room for respite. If she continued on the defensive, defeat was inevitable. She needed a breakthrough. Closing her eyes, she concentrated, feeling the lethal intent swirling in the air. In that fleeting silence, she sensed the whisper of the Nether Drake, a strange resonance, an instinctive connection urging her to embrace its power fully. When her eyes reopened, a flicker of violet glowed within them, She no longer fought with just her sword. She fought as one with the Nether Drake. As the next attack came, her movements changed, suddenly fluid, ghostly, faster than before. She wove between her opponents like a phantom, her blade tracing arcs of violet light in the darkness. Slash! The first mercenary's dagger flew from his grasp. The second's warhammer was deflected by an unseen force. In a blink, Alya's silhouette flickered behind the third mercenary, her sword pressing against his throat. Silence fell over the arena. Drake slowly sat up, his expression shifting to one of genuine interest. Clapping his hands, he chuckled, his smirk now edged with approval. "Not bad," he mused. "It seems you might be worth my men." Alya sheathed her sword and exhaled deeply. The first trial had been conquered. The Undead Hunter's trial. The challenge of the necropolis. Wasting no time after her success at the Mercenary Alliance, Alya set out for the domain of the Undead Hunters. Their territory housed an ancient necropolis, a site said to be guarded by generations of their order. The massive stone doors of the necropolis groaned open, releasing a chilling wave of spectral energy. It felt as if 1,000 restless souls were whispering in the shadows. The hunter's leader stood at the entrance, his gaze impassive. "Enter the necropolis. Face the ancient guardian alone. If you emerge alive, we will acknowledge your strength." Without hesitation, Alya stepped into the darkness. The air inside was suffocatingly cold. Black flames flickered along the walls, casting eerie, shifting shadows. Ahead, a colossal statue of an undead warrior suddenly came to life. Its hollow eye sockets blazed with violet fire as it raised a massive sword. Alya braced herself. The battle erupted in an instant. The Guardian's strikes were devastating, each blow carrying the weight of centuries of bound souls. Alya barely dodged, her breath growing ragged as exhaustion threatened to overtake her. The confined space left her with little room to maneuver. Then, the Guardian swung again, a strike too fast to evade. Pain seared through her shoulder as the sword grazed her, drawing blood. Her breathing quickened. Fatigue clawed at her limbs. But in that moment, she felt the Nether Drake stir within her, its power welling up like an unrelenting tide. Closing her eyes, she surrendered to the darkness. When they reopened, her irises were fully consumed by violet light. The spectral form of the Nether Drake materialized behind her, its energy coursing through her veins. Boom! A surge of dark energy exploded outward, wreathing her blade in violet flames. She no longer resisted the power of the undead. She commanded it. With a final, decisive strike, she shattered the Guardian's sword and unleashed a slash that tore through the necropolis, rending the air with violet light. The undead warrior halted. Then, its form crumbled into ash. The oppressive darkness began to lift. The doors of the necropolis swung open once more, revealing the undead hunter's leader standing outside, his eyes reflecting a newfound respect. "It seems," he murmured, "that you truly are capable of wielding the power of the undead." He stepped forward. "The undead hunters will stand by your side." Alya's awakening, the power within. Beneath the star-strewn sky, Alya stood atop a hill, gazing down at the gathered forces, the rebellious fighters, the mercenaries, and the undead hunters who had now sworn to her cause. At last, she was no longer a fugitive running from her past. Power surged within her, no longer a burden she carried, but a force she commanded. She was not merely an inheritor of undead blood. She was its master. Slowly, she clenched her fist, feeling the pulse of the Nether Drake's resonance. This war, she would not fight alone. "I'm the Undead King," she murmured, her voice steady. "Your reign is over." The wind howled, carrying the scent of approaching war. The battle was about to begin. The night sky was draped in darkness, the calm before the storm of battle. In the camp, preparations were in full swing for the impending conflict. Mercenary King Drake and his elite troops were stationed at the perimeter, while the undead hunters kept watch from the heights, ready to respond to any sudden developments. Among the gathered warriors, a figure clad in a black cloak stood quietly beyond the firelight, as if merging with the shadows. Standing on the temporary command platform, Alya surveyed the allies assembled before her with unwavering determination. She knew that this battle was not just about revenge, nor merely about overthrowing the Empire. It was about preventing the resurrection of the Undead King and stopping the world from descending into eternal darkness. Everyone, our target is the sealed grounds of the Undead. Alya's voice pierced through the night, reaching the ears of every warrior present. The Black Armor Legion has already begun moving. If we do not reach the seal before them, and it is broken, the entire continent will fall into ruin. A resounding response filled the air, spirits surging with resolve. Yet, just then, a low voice emerged from the shadows. "You've finally come this far, Alya." Alya spun around sharply, her gaze locking onto the mysterious cloaked figure. The truth behind the stranger. The night wind lifted the figure's cloak as he stepped forward and removed his mask, revealing a mature yet stern face. His eyes were like deep abysses, holding emotions too complex to decipher. Alya narrowed her eyes, a sense of familiarity stirring within her. She had seen those eyes before in her dreams, and somewhere in the depths of her memory, a figure like his had always seemed to stand silently by her side. "Who are you?" Her voice unconsciously softened. "Me." The man's lips curled slightly, tinged with self-mockery. "You can call me Hughes." Hughes? The name was unfamiliar to her, yet his gaze carried an undeniable sense of recognition. "You've been watching me since the beginning." Alya's eyes were sharp as blades. "Why?" Hughes was silent for a moment before he sighed and lifted a hand, pointing toward the shadowy form of the Nether Drake hovering behind her. "Because of you," he said. "You made me believe that the fate of the undead has not yet been sealed." Alya stiffened. "Your soul beast, the Nether Drake, is the only existence capable of opposing the Undead King." Hughes continued, his voice growing lower and more urgent. "But do you know its true origins?" Alya's heart clenched. She had never truly questioned where the Nether Drake came from. She only knew that it was a power she had been born with, the very reason the Empire had hunted her as a bearer of undead lineage. Hughes spoke slowly. The Nether Drake was originally the Undead King's soul beast. The air around them froze. Mercenary King Drake frowned deeply, and the undead hunter leader's expression shifted to one of disbelief. Alya's eyes widened in shock, unable to accept what she had just heard. "What?" Hughes continued. "Before the Undead King was sealed, he attempted to transfer a portion of his soul into his soul beast as a means of avoiding total imprisonment. But due to some unknown interference, the transfer was incomplete, and instead, it became your soul beast." Alya's mind reeled. Her soul beast had originally belonged to the Undead King? Suddenly, memories of the Nether Drake's overwhelming power surged through her mind, the way it resonated with the undead, the whispers it sent in her dreams. "This is impossible," she murmured. Hughes let out a soft sigh. "That is why the Empire has hunted you relentlessly, because they fear you. They fear you may become the next Undead King." Silence enveloped the camp as everyone processed the shocking revelation. Alya closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Her origins, her power, her destiny, everything was beginning to piece together. But she did not waver. "Then how much longer can the Undead King's seal hold?" she asked, her voice unwavering. Hughes looked at her and replied solemnly, "In 3 days, the Black Armor Legion will break the seal." Alya's heart pounded as she turned swiftly to her army. "Everyone, prepare to march. We must reach the sealed grounds within 3 days." The warriors roared in response, their fighting spirit igniting like wildfire. The Black Armor Legion moves. Meanwhile, in the Imperial capital, General Night Owl knelt on one knee, reporting in a low voice to the Emperor seated upon the throne. Your Majesty, Alya has assembled a vast rebel force and gained the support of the Mercenary Alliance and the Undead Hunters. The Emperor was silent for a moment before speaking slowly. Then it is time to end this farce. Night Owl raised his head, eyes gleaming with icy resolve. Deploy the Black Armor Legion. At dawn the next day, Alya led her allied forces on their march toward the sealed grounds of the Undead. Beside her, Hughes walked in silence, his presence merging seamlessly with the darkness. Alya did not question him further. She knew there were still many secrets about her fate left to uncover, but at this moment, nothing mattered more than winning the coming war. The wind howled behind them. Above the sky, a faint crack of darkness had begun to appear, and the air carried the chilling presence of the undead. The final battle was near.